In the West, March 17 is celebrated as St. Patrick's Day. And last time I told you about the real Patrick, how as a teenager his life was suddenly turned upside down when he was captured and sold as a slave across the seas in Ireland. Then he had a dream after 6 years as a slave that he might escape if he could get a ship, get to the coast, and a ship would take him. Well, he decided to do it, even though it was very dangerous for a runaway slave. And he made it back home. And you can imagine his family were overjoyed to see him. And he must have settled into a comfortable middle-class life. But then, some years later, we don't know exactly, maybe a decade or so, he had another dream. And in this dream, he heard people speaking the Irish language, calling him to come back. And as he thought about this dream later, he felt it was God calling him to go back to Ireland and take the good news of Christ's love to the people of that land in which he had formerly been a slave. Well, what would you say if you were his family? Of course, they said, "Don't go, you'll die. You'll be killed." And his friends said that. But Patrick said, "I know I may die, but God is calling me to go, and so I must go." Well, he did go back, and he faced many obstacles, but over time, a lot of people began to listen to him and follow him, a lot of young people especially. In those days, the Irish people worshiped fierce gods whose priests were druids, and these gods seemed to try to trick people and then punish people. So when Patrick came, he was talking about a God who loved people so much, he sent his own son to die as a sacrifice for people's sins. We don't know the details much of Patrick's life, but what we do know in history is that within a few generations, the whole of Irish society had changed. It had a much more Christ-like feel. It must have been that people loved each other more and cared for people and were kind and generous. The whole of Ireland had become essentially Christian. Millions of people's lives were better off because of this. What would you do if God called you to do something very risky? Be blessed today.